As you may or may not expect, it is currently Thursday, the 28th of July. And this is Day 9 Daily number 331, where we learn to be a better gamer. It is sadly the last of Europe Week. Oh, I know, because I keep having to get up early in the morning to do this daily, and I'm more used to the 7 p.m. sort of dailies. But that's okay, because there will be more Europe Weeks in the future, because of how wonderful and warm you wubulous Europeans have turned out to be. Love you guys. Seriously, screw Americans. Let's go ahead and talk briefly about the topic for today, and then of course the usual smorgasbord of announcements. We're going to be doing what I would like to label as a selfish daily. It's going to be Morrow versus DDe, with the extra special emphasis on DDe. In terms of announcements, I leave in like 2 hours to go to Major League Gaming Anaheim. If you are in Europe, which you probably are, unless you get up early like me, then you can watch at mlgpro.com, which you should do, because I'll be commentating all weekend with DJ Wheat, Admiral H to the Usky Husky, and Mr. Bittersweet. It's just Mr. Bitter. In addition to this, I realize I have not been appropriately announcing the Fun Day Monday topic that is due on Monday, where you must early expand to your opponent's natural and build a planetary fortress there. Easy as can be. And the third and most important announcement of all, every morning when I wake up, I drink a protein shake. I haven't been doing that for a while, which is why I've been kind of ballooning, but that's fine. So I keep setting the protein shake down like right here, and that's the only food I bring into my room, right, because I'm a responsible person. And there is like a limbo line of ants. Seriously, it looks like a bunch of drunk high schoolers after prom or something. They're all just wandering around in empty desks. There's nothing here. There was a protein shake, but it's gone now. And I don't have my glasses in right now. I can't see anything. It's all white. But I guarantee when I put this on, there's one. I keep having to just they're little annoying sugar ants. And they're so amazing, such incredible creatures these ants are, until they get in my room, and then they're just assholes. So we're going to go ahead and be taking a lot of them out today. It's going to be good. So today we're going to be looking at the second semifinal from the Shoutcraft Invitational, where it's going to be DDe versus Ravager. Stop messaging me about ants. Only message me about problems with the stream. It's distracting. Oh, by the way, my admins are always here to help me in case there's something going wrong with the stream, like, hey, Day 9, you don't have audio on, or something like that. And every time they message me, I'm just like, oh my god, what's wrong with the stream? And Ravager's like, hey, you drink protein shakes? No wonder you have ants. And I'm like, oh, no wonder, Ravager. So anyways, what are we talking about? Oh, that's right. There was the recent Shoutcraft Invitational whereby Total Biscuit, who's totally kick-ass, he collects all the money revenue that he generates from his own personal StarCraft 2 stream and dumps it into these tournaments that he calls the Shoutcraft Invitational, where the prize pool is literally just his own ad revenue, and he invites a bunch of really good players. And one of the players that he invited was the name DDe, a North American server player who has been, I guess, doing better and better and better as of late, but I don't think has gotten nearly enough credit, because he's one of those players who has not really made a lot of big showings at major live tournaments, but has been doing some really impressive stuff online. So we're going to look at his second semifinal games against Morrow, because he's going to do some really amazing creative stuff, and quite honestly, I just wanted to steal it. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop into this game, and this will be a little bit spoilerish. We do have DDe versus Morrow, and for any of you who haven't seen the series of games, you technically should just turn this off unless you don't want to be spoiled, because I will be talking about results. Haha. So I'll give the 3, 2, 1, and go. Now we're playing it. We have DDe here in the left position. This game is going to be a fairly short game, and the reason I chose this is that this is more of a selfish daily, as I like to put it. I really want to see what the hell a player like DDe does against a player like Morrow. How do you play this matchup in a suave, sexy manner? Because I think that there's been, I personally feel that there's been a little bit of stagnation in terms of the Terran thought processes. that there's so much that you can do, but a lot of times players just fall into these little pits of despair where they're doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And some creativity is much needed. So we see the barracks going down now for DDe. This Meaty Owl Legs, I believe, was the old alias of Naniwa when he was laddering it up and got to the first 4,000 point player on the Euro server. Morrow going to be early expanding. We got the chance to look at Morrow's amazing Zerg vs. Terran versus Select earlier, and we're seeing again, look at that, 17 of 18. Very bold with the amount of droning that he does. And we see a tech lab going down as well. So this is where I want to slow it down a little bit because I want to steal what DDe is doing, and most importantly, I want to try to understand it. I don't just want to steal. That's actually very important to note because, for instance, there's an early expand coming in from Zerg. What if we saw, I don't know, say, what if we saw, say, a gas then pool opening? So we can be expecting some more speedlings early on. Or we can be expecting a few more cheeses early on. Do I really want to do this kind of aggression? So we're going to see DDe do his good old moving out in action. Oh, and by the way, one thing that really blows my mind, DDe does not hotkey buildings. I know you see two building hotkeys here, but he's not going to use them. He just goes back to his base and clicks. This blew my mind when I started watching his game. When we get to like some 20-minute games later on in the daily, my mind's going to explode. Here's a little technique that a lot of players know and love, which is to just throw down a bunker, but to not necessarily actually build anything out of that bunker. Just bringing a drone off mining for a brief period of time. And one Reaper, the first Reaper, yay, Reaper number 1 has just popped out. Already a couple things that I'm noticing. If I look around, where is the second supply depot? There it is. I saw the food count was high enough. When many players go for a barracks early expand, they don't build this second supply depot, so that feels somewhat significant to me. It makes sense, though, if he's going to be doing this bunkering stuff, he's not going to be planting his expansion down so early, and as a result, he's not going to quite have enough money to be building that supply depot. And Morrow, appropriately, sends oodles of drones over. Where are those Reapers? There's the Reaper in the main, killing off 2 drones. Yeah, and already I realize I missed a brief bit of the tactic tree that's really good. For any of you who don't know, I call a tactic something that can go from start to finish in 30 seconds. Just a little action. So here's a good tactic. Build a bunker at the front, draw the drones down, send the Reaper to the back. Generally, you actually have to have units at the front, but instead you just have a huge threat at the front. And I'm real curious to see how our good friend Meaty Owl Legs, aka DDe, plays this off. He's going to be very aggressive with this Reaper, and already this is making me realize a couple of things. This Reaper stood there and just took it, versus all of those, ants, versus all those Zerglings. What the fuck did I say? Did I just say ants? What? Well, there are a lot back over here. Have any found the ant trap? Well, no. Gosh, man, I do not like bugs at all. Ugh, they just freak me out. But anyways, we saw this Reaper stay here and just take the damage from the Zerglings. And if you think about it, almost always Zergs nowadays are just building nothing but drones and playing very, very power-y and have figured out ways to hold off almost every early marine pressure with just queens, a couple of Zerglings, and drones. However, in this circumstance, the Reaper really forces you to make more Zerglings. You cannot get away with any sort of cutesy defense. We see that this Reaper is already getting a good amount of kills, and the second Reaper is en route, and a third Reaper coming out. Ooh, this is already quite interesting to me. Has he pulled any out of gas? Well, no. And one of the most important basic techniques in really all of StarCraft 2 is whenever you are building things that are expensive on gas, it means that you're going to have minerals left over that you can use to do other things. My favorite example, you build lots of sentries. What do you do with the leftover minerals? You expand. You build more gateways. The Reaper is a very gas-expensive unit. We can tell because it has the same amount of minerals as it does gas. Costs 50 minerals, 50 gas. That is a very expensive on-gas unit. So, generally you build one Reaper because it saves you up money so you can build one command center, but we are seeing our good friend DDe add on more barracks at this point in time, and he's still going quite crazy with the Reapers. And here's another little tactical notion to exploit. These two locations will never be joined up with creep, ever. So if we don't see an early gas, for instance, if we just see an early expand, which is really becoming very, very common, we can actually just hang out in between these two locations and do this sort of damage. Look at that great, great freaking control, where he loses one and will likely lose the other. Well, still, I really like the fact that he was splitting them up. This always seems a little bit risky to me. I personally am of the opinion, never suicide to kill workers. If you have 4 Reapers, don't just run back here and try to stop here and kill off what you can before you die. These Reapers took so long to build. Just so freaking unbelievably long to build that you may as well just try to make use of them for as long as possible. And we're seeing DDe again just hang out in between the two bases and do a lot of damage. In this tab, we see, obviously, a lot killed. And to note, we see the stim coming up immediately. This is a little bit unusual because increasingly more players are getting combat shield upgrade. They get the combat shield upgrade because it helps them deal with the banelings a little bit better. If you watch MMA versus Lacira from MLG, you'll see always MMA will be getting himself the early combat shield, because if someone does a baneling bust and tries to just run right into your face and tries to kill off your front, if you went for stim first, it won't be done, and you'll actually just lose all your Marines really easily. If you have the combat shield, it will be done, and it can help you a little bit more against the banelings, not as much as you'd really hope. But again, the important concept is that the combat shield is done when the stim normally isn't. So this is actually a pretty aggressive play by DDe, but I suppose that it does make a good bit of sense considering no gas yet by the opponent. The reason I bring up that whole discussion about the banelings is I kind of want to say, was it the gas geysers that's triggering us to get this stim so early? Or is this something we always want to do? I asked myself this question, and then I'm going to go test it in real gameplay. They both seem reasonable on paper. On one hand, you could say, well, hell, I'm DDe. I really like being aggressive early on, and there's no way he can kill me, so yeah, I'm just going to go straight up for the stim. Other players like me might say, yeah, I like combat shield. I don't like dying. We see 5 barracks go down. That's quite uncommon. 1 Reaper, alas, does die. Oh, you see that little move? Just trying to conserve the Reaper, trying to keep it alive as long as possible. And interestingly, there's no way that these two will ever be able to join up creep if you have control over this area with the Reaper. If he tries to build a creep tumor, you simply kill it with your amazing, cool grenades. And wow, getting the second tech lab, producing a lot of Marines. Again, do note that he does not hotkey his barracks. He hotkeys his command centers for 1 SS, but these aren't hotkeyed. Only this one's hotkeyed. You guys, DDe doesn't use hotkeys. Now, a real problem is a lot of people are going to go, well, DDe's really good. He's been beating all sorts of top Zerg players. I'm going to be like DDe and not hotkey. Hotkey. Please use your hotkeys. Please use your control groups. Please. There are no control groups being used by this man. He only has his units hotkeyed. I don't believe it. And the last hurrah of Meaty Owl Legs, aka DDe, has been concluded, and we can see that, wow, it looks quite a bit like Terran is behind, because if we look at the food count, we see that Morrow has 1 billion workers, making 12 more. We see the combat shield en route as well, a lot of Marines popping out, and it looks just like a straight up push coming up for our good friend DDe, who's making Marines out of a lot of barracks, Marauders out of 1. An important thing that I would like to just throw out there is that I think that unit-producing structures without add-ons are the most underrated aspect of Terran play. I think the reactor add-on sucks, quite honestly. Sure, there are builds that involve it, like the Double Hellion build, which you know me, I love that Double Hellion build, but it's important to think about the ways that you can transition if you have these, if you don't have add-ons. One of my favorite examples is a Terran vs. Zerg set of styles that we've been seeing a lot lately. Well, before I describe the style, what I want to do is I want to throw out a question. You are a Terran player, you open up building some Marines, and then you're going to get Blue Flame Hellions. A lot of them. Very standard. We see it a lot. It's been kind of fading out of style lately, but it's still something that popped up a lot, right? We build our Marines early for pressure and to get our expansion up. Then we get 2 refineries. We build ourselves some additional factories. And then we put on pressure with Blue Flame Hellions and just regular old Marines. And considering that the Zergling-Baneling mixture used to be the Zerg strategy du jour, we would kill them. A lot of times Terran players have taken this a little farther, where they build 1 barracks, expand, and then immediately get the factories. They cut the Marines all the way out of the entire attack interaction, and then they straight up just go for the Blue Flame Hellionage. So let's say you even want to do something like that. Here's what many players do. They build 2 factories, one with a tech lab, and then one with a reactor. Or, they'll even build the reactor on the 1 barracks that they have, move it away, and then they have 2 factories churning out maximum numbers of Hellions. This is a style that we have seen Root Druby do a lot. We've seen many Korean pros do a lot. Very common. However, a real problem arises when you think about the next step. Sure, you're going to get a lot of Hellions out very, very quickly. But then what? You could, lift the factory and move it away and do something else with it and give the reactor to another building. But what we see players do a little bit more often now is that they will build 3 factories and only 1 will have a tech lab. They're still producing Hellions 3 at a time, but then all of a sudden when they need to begin getting some Thors, they throw down an armory, add on 2 more tech labs, and boom, they can immediately get a huge number of Thors. In other words, when you build just naked unit producing structures instead of reactors, it gives you more options in terms of transitioning. One of my favorite things to do when you have a lot of barracks without an add-on is when I take another expansion and my income rate increases, I just throw down 4 more reactors, and then suddenly my production instantly catches up to my income, and I am immediately able to produce much more quickly with a minimal amount of investment. The only problem with doing this sort of style is that it is a little bit more of a mineral investment early on. Obviously, if you went for the reactors, it would be cheaper on gas. So I just want to throw out there, consider doing more barracks with no add-ons at all. You can see some cool stuff pop out of it. And it looks like this little stim mariner push. Going to just dart forward and do a lot of damage. Die, you ant. In the meantime, we also see that, yeah, he's getting his evolution chamber just in case there's any sort of banshee, and also to get an upgrade. We have the gas down for Morrow. Morrow still is in the food lead, but the stim rush just comes so incredibly fast that it looks like Morrow was entirely underprepared for it. And there's the, oh, I love the individual stim on the Marauder. Completely overridden by the mass stim on everything. But some very nice controlling going on. Again, only 1 barracks hotkeyed. I don't really know how he does that, but it seems pretty straightforwardly Gosu to me. Pretty straightforwardly Gosu. Now, the funny thing to note is that even with all these barracks, we're seeing DDe get more and more money in the bank. So what this implies is, even if you do this big amount of barracks early on, it's not like you're going to suddenly hit a wall where you cannot afford to transition out anymore. And this looks just like a very nice little play. The Reapers bought us a lot of time, and most Terrans have not really used that time appropriately. Sure, they'll maybe get 1 command center, but I love this, getting a lot more barracks when we see that our opponent is a little bit behind on his gas production. so he cannot get the speed. And then this sort of control is pretty standard. But what's interesting to me is that we don't actually see this kind of push. We don't really see a just regular straight Marine Marauder push at the front. It's very unseen. So that's kind of cool. You heard me also talk a ton about, oh, Reaper buying time, all this good, funny monkey business. But I should not neglect the fact that another good reason the Reaper's opening will help with this play is that we already have a tech lab out. We're already getting gas, so we can get the stim a little bit earlier. What we're going to do is we're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to look at yet another game between Morrow and DDe. Don't go anywhere, because I certainly won't, except perhaps to kill some ants. See you in a sec!